It concerns me moving forward, moving ahead, with some big games coming up imminently, that Arteta has this safety first approach to football matches, particularly the big football matches, and particularly away from home. We're seeing the same pattern from Mikel time and time again. When you could be brave, you could be adventurous, you're choosing to play the likes of Marino and Martinelli. Players who were in that team for me because of their defensive work, not because of what they would offer going forward. Hello all Gooners, welcome back to the Arsenal Bloodline. I am Elts, thank you for tuning in. This is just going to be a very quick weekly recap on the last sort of few days events surrounding Arsenal. Of course, we know the transfer window closed yesterday, and I don't know about you guys, but that just felt to be open forever. That just felt like it was the longest transfer window I can remember in recent history. A super long transfer window. It just seemed like it was open. I know it opened up a little bit earlier due to the Club World Cup, but yeah, it just felt like it was open for so long. But all in all, I think we had a great window, but I will come on to that. First, I just want to go over Anfield just one last time. In fact, it's not going to be so much about Anfield, it's more about Arteta and what he did at Anfield, because, like, make no mistakes about it, I'm not peeved that we lost. Well, yeah, I am a little bit peeved that we lost, but it's more about the application and the attitude and the intent, or lack of, that really is really bothering me. And I know I've got to get over it. The game's done. I understand that. Spilt milk, rah-de-rah. I get it. But it concerns me moving forward, moving ahead, with some big games coming up imminently, that Arteta has this safety first approach to football matches, particularly the big football matches, and particularly away from home. We're seeing the same pattern from Mikel time and time again. When you could be brave, you could be adventurous, you're choosing to play the likes of Marino and Martinelli. Players who were in that team for me because of their defensive work, not because of what they would offer going forward. Although that would, of course, Arteta is going to say, yes, well, they're attacking players, but correct me if I'm wrong, but Mikel Marino, wasn't he a CDM at Deportivo? He's not an attacking midfielder. So where's this narrative come from that Mikel Marino is some attacking prowess player? He's not. He's not a creator. He's not someone that's going to, drive at defences. He's a very static, stand stillish kind of player. That's the only way I can refer to him. He's a decent player. I don't think I've been impressed yet by Mikel Marino playing in midfield. He made his name at Arsenal playing in a position that wasn't really familiar to him, but he can finish. But he's not a player that you go to Anfield to if you've got real ambition to take them on and, go for it and try and win that football match. The lineup: Mikel Marino starts, Odegaard's on the bench, Ethan Nwaneri's on the bench, and Eberechi Eze is also on the bench. Mikel Marino starts ahead of all of them. That for me is diabolical. I don't understand. If you're looking to win a game with real genuine ambition to win that game, how none of those three start I still can't quite get over it. Again, it indicates a safety first approach for Mikel Arteta. The same with starting with Martinelli. Martinelli was not in that team because of his attacking prowess. He's not been in good form for years, and that's not an exaggeration. To say, oh well, Martinelli, he's defensively astute and he does a really good job in terms of being disciplined and staying in shape, that's a bit of an insult to someone like Saka, who does the same thing on the right hand side but also contributes. He contributes going forward, which is what I want to see from my attacking players. I want to see what you can do going forward. I don't care about how good you are at defending. We've got a great defence. Why are you overprotecting the defence so much when they're already good? How about some attacking play? How about some bravery in the final third? Gary Neville made a very good point in commentary. It's not the first time he's made it. We are more brave in passing in and around our own box than we are in the opposition's box. I don't understand it. We spent 300 million in that window. Everyone was excited. We were all so excited, so gassed by what we'd seen in the transfer window and how we conducted ourselves. We were moving like a big club in the transfer window for the purpose of these very games. But watching that game on Sunday, Did we look better than we did when we went to Anfield last time? At least we scored twice last time we went to Anfield. That was 300 million less than what we've assembled now. Now we're 300 million later, and we look worse than when we last played Liverpool at Anfield. We scored twice back then. We looked like we had impetus back then, and there was an energy about us, and that was a game that didn't matter. This game on Sunday that just went past, that mattered. Gyökeres looking more and more isolated. Every single game he's looking isolated. I'm not particularly fooled by the Leeds game. He wasn't in the game against Leeds. It was much of the same that we saw at Old Trafford and what we saw again on Sunday. He just happened to score 2 goals, including a penalty. But he wasn't in the game. We weren't able to feed him. We weren't able to bring him into the game. And for me, he's doing his best. He's making good runs. There's been a few times now. It happened against Man United, it happened against Leeds, and it happened again against Liverpool on Sunday, where he made runs. There was pivotal moments that the ball was not being fed to him. That again has got to be down to the manager. What is he telling the players? Why are they not making that pass? Why is he there if they're not going to play to his strengths? Don't understand. Attempts on goal, 1 shot on target. And that was from Noni Madueke from just outside the area. It was a good shot, but Alisson was never bothered by it. He just sort of pushed it around the post for a corner comfortably. That was our only shot on target. The only other big moment that we had in that game came through Eberechi Eze, and I don't understand why Eze's not shot when he looked like he was clean through. He hasn't shot, he hasn't passed. It's like he got caught in 3 minds, not let alone 2. He got caught in 3 minds of, do I shoot, do I pass to Gyökeres or Odegaard, who are both in space and got a tap in here, or do I go down? He chose the worst option that he could have chosen, and he chose to go down under minimal contact, and rightly so. The referee told him to get up and get on with it. My other bugbear about Sunday was the fact that he brought on Max Dowman before bringing on Ethan Nwaneri. And if I'm Ethan Nwaneri, I've got some questions to be asking the boss. I have to, because it doesn't make sense. I need to understand his thinking, because when Odegaard suffered through his shoulder injury against Leeds, it was Nwaneri that came on and actually played very well. 1 week on, and in a game where we could have used Ethan Nwaneri. I wanted Ethan Nwaneri to start centrally. If Odegaard weren't fit enough, play Ethan Nwaneri. Not only does he not play him, doesn't start him, doesn't bring him on, but you bring on your 80-70% fit captain. You bring on your new signing, and you bring on a 15-year-old, 3 years, Ethan Nwaneri's junior. What must be going through Ethan Nwaneri's head at that time? If I'm Ethan Nwaneri on the Monday morning, so yesterday morning, I'd have been knocking on his door, boss, can I have a word? I need to understand why you didn't involve me when I played an hour last week and I played pretty well. I just need to make sense of it. That would be me if I was Ethan Nwaneri. So I just think Arsene Wenger, and Arteta will know this as a former Arsene Wenger player. When we used to have an off game and we used to lose or drop points, one of Arsene's famous phrases was, "We played with the handbrake on today." Under Mikel Arteta, it's like we purposely played with the handbrake on, and he's perfectly fine with it. It beggars belief. There was a point in that second half where you could see that Liverpool were turning the tide in that game. They were turning the tide, they were turning the wheel. They weren't great, by the way, Liverpool. I just want to make that point. Liverpool weren't great. I weren't impressed by them at all. They didn't deserve to win the game, in my opinion. They scored an absolutely wonderful free kick, and that's why they won the game. They weren't the better team. It was a very even kill game. It wasn't the greatest game. They didn't create much. We didn't create much. But one thing that you have to give Liverpool credit for is they did turned up the notch a little bit in midway through that second half, and that's what then earned them their free kick, which of course Slobosai scores an absolute worldie, and then they end up winning the game. But they didn't deserve to win based on the performance. But they won't care, and rightly so they won't care, because it's about the result, but it's also about the intent. Liverpool have got nothing to prove to Arsenal. We've got everything to prove to them and the rest of the league that we are good enough to win this title. There's an old adage in boxing that when a challenger's fighting the champion, if he wants to win that belt, he's got to rip that belt away from the champion. You're not going to dance around the champion, especially in the champion's backyard. You're not going to dance around and win on points. That's not going to happen. You have to knock that guy out, like Muhammad Ali did to George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. You have to do that. You have to knock him out. And it's if you try to knock him out and it doesn't work and you end up losing the fight, okay, I've got no problem with that. But try and knock him out. Have the intent to knock him out. We didn't have that. on Sunday, and that was the most disappointing thing for me. But anyway, look, it's spilt milk now. This was my roundup of that. Of course, we had the transfer window. Yesterday it closed. I don't have too much to say about the transfer window, apart from to say I'm very happy with how we conducted ourselves in that window. We conducted ourselves as a big club should. We went out there, we was aggressive, we got the targets that we needed. Being greedy, I still feel maybe with one more player, if I, in an ideal world, in a Carlsberg world, I would probably say that I'd like to have seen Martinelli moved on in good spirit as well, with a thank you, a pat on the back, and a sincere well-wishing of all the best in the future. And I'd like to have seen a Semenyo come in, or a Lookman. It didn't happen, but, we still can't really complain. We've had a fantastic window in terms of the incomings. In terms of the outgoings, we know that Zinchenko went to Nottingham Forest on loan last night. Reece Nelson went to Brentford. We know that Carl Hein went on loan earlier in the window. Tavares was sold earlier in the window. Of course, Takahiro Tomiyasu left through mutual consent. Fabio Vieira also went to Hamburg alongside Sambi on loan. Of course, Jakub Kivior went to Porto, again on loan with a 2 million fixed fee, and it's the fee next year obligation to buy for, I think, a fee around 27 million, which I think is not enough for a player of that quality, but that is probably the crux of the window, and something that is certainly the downside of the window, and something that Arsenal have got to improve on, because I don't understand how other clubs are getting like 40, 50 million for their players, and we're struggling to get players out on loan. That's something that's got to be addressed. We've been poor at moving players on now for God knows how many years, and to think, and what sums it up for me is the fact that Oxlade-Chamberlain is still our most lucrative sell. And subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you for watching the Arsenal Bloodline. I'm Elts, and I'll see you very soon. Peace out.